For Brenda. Welcome to our coaching chat Zoom. We are in, let's see, week 3 of our focus on the diagnosis. And what we're doing is we're selecting different health situations that we're kind of honing in on. We're collecting tools, we're collecting recordings, and we're taking that information and we're collectively putting it together so that when we're coming up talking to people with that particular situation, health situation, we've got the information at our fingertips. And so our week 1 was pregnancy. How many people on here? And I'll show you where it's being housed. Ultimately, we're going to get it on boards. Right now, it's on our Team Extreme website. But how many have utilized the pregnancy, all the information we collected on pregnancy? All right, I see several hands going up. How about last week we did it on cancer? How many has gone to the website, pulled some of that information? Okay, so I'm going to challenge you guys. Let's utilize these tools. So what I would encourage you all to do is, if you don't have it right now, grab a pen and paper and let's go ahead and start. This week is on diabetes. So I want everyone to take just a minute or so right now, piece of paper, and begin to write down, who do you know is a diabetic? Maybe they have maybe those precursors of diabetes. Think through the people who you know this information could really change their life. So take a minute. Let's try to get at least 5 names. Surely we can come up with 5 names of people that we want to connect with, that we know of, that has diabetes or anything like a precursor to that. All right, someone tell me. I'm gonna pick on someone who looks like they're Jelaine. I'm gonna pick on you. Jelaine, tell us somebody who's the first person on your list.
I actually don't have anybody that I'm thinking of.
Okay, then if right now you're not thinking, nobody's coming to mind, how about cancer or pregnancy? So we've got pregnancy collected, cancer information collected. Now we're moving to diabetes. So if suddenly nobody's coming to mind, go back to cancer or go back to pregnancy. Who's got a name on their first name on their list? Karen, who's your person?
Mark, my brother.
Your brother, okay. How about your brothers? Any brothers, sisters? Deborah, who's the first person on your list?
I have a friend down in Florida, but this person not only has diabetes, they're also on kidney dialysis.
Wow.
Does that count or?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're just utilizing these diseases to kind of get our juices flowing, our thoughts going. Who else? First person on your list. Aaron.
The guy that I met on the airplane last week, and a couple of parents that are in band with us.
Okay. All right. So I'm asking people very specifically for a reason. And here's why. One is because when I hear other people talk, suddenly what happens? I just thought of someone when Aaron said someone on the airplane. Anybody else think of somebody? So I'm asking so that it triggers our minds. But the other thing is, guess what? We're taking this whole coaching chat to a whole nother level. So be prepared. I'm giving everyone fair warning. Every week from here on out, we're going to hear from 2 people. And based on our list that we create while we're on this call today, so you better get jotting them down, names as they come to mind. I'm going to pick 2 people every week to share how your week went, who you spoke with, where that person is on the continuum. So we're going to hold ourselves accountable. We're all going to do it. and be prepared. Because you know what? Going to conference, I just keep going back to why this thought is in my head. Why not our best? Why not our best? What are we doing showing up on Mondays and then not doing our best to connect with the people, to move the dial, to move us along in this business? What would hold us back? What holds us back from giving it our absolute best? I'll tell you right now, I think sometimes for me, it's fear. Anybody else have some fear? What if I invest a lot of time in this person or that person and I don't see results? What if, this person thinks, oh my gosh, she's an MLM junkie. What is she doing calling me? Anybody have any fears like that going on in your head you want to admit? Am I the only one?
I do.
Okay. So what else is going to hold us back from doing our best besides fear? What else?
I think just busyness and feeling like just like avoidance. For some reason, there's this weird thing. Like I had it this morning, I was like, no, you're getting in there. You're making these calls. You got to change people's lives. I had to kind of keep rehearsing because there was this weird avoidance in me.
Okay. And what do you think causes the avoidance? I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah, I'm not certain if it is like a fear, or sometimes like, even though I've been doing this forever, sometimes I'm not sure what to do. I think
Okay.
probably for me, the best thing to get out of that is to pick up the phone and that helps.
I'm sorry, there was some noise. What'd you say? The best thing to help you?
Sometimes the best thing that helps me get out of that is to have a good conversation with somebody, like to actually pick up the phone rather than
Have some success. Yes, I would agree 100%. So maybe the word is procrastination. And what busts up procrastination?
movement and action.
Movement and action. And what causes us to move and to act?
I think sometimes like a why, understanding why we're doing what we're doing.
Okay, I think there's something in between that.
Excitement.
Definitely excitement.
Planning.
What? Planning.
Planning.
If
So-
we don't have, yes.
Mhm.
If we don't have a system, I think lack of a system causes procrastination
Mhm.
Yes.
because we
I
don't
don't know
know
where to
what
start.
do.
Right.
We don't know where to start. So
Okay.
if we have to just get down to the basics, have literally a notebook. And every Monday morning when we step into that day, we have 25 names on that notebook. If it gets down to that simple of a system, if that's what it's going to have to take, but procrastination is because we don't have a system, and exactly what you said, Erin, we don't know where to start. And so we're going to hold ourselves accountable with having a system that works for us and that we work that system. All right, I can get off on this all day long, but know that next week you may be called on. So have your plan, your system, and know that we're going to ask about, who'd you connect with? How did it go? What happened? And we're going to hold ourselves to that next level, because why not our best?
Mhm.
Why not? Okay, I'm going to stop talking. We are going to talk about diabetes today. And so thanks to Brenda Proctor, who put a huge bit of this together. I'm going to as soon as I get over there, Brenda, there we go. I'm going to let you kick us off and start. Okay, so let me back out for 1 second. This is our Team Extreme website. And yes, eventually we're going to get this on boards. So it's teamextreme.dropmark.com. And it's being housed under the tools section. And so now you can see, oh, I'm sorry, folks. Here we go. Okay, so we started out with trying to get this situated. Oh, this drives me crazy. Things get, okay, so we started out with pregnancy health. Then we went to, and it was all in order earlier today. Then we went to cancer. So you can see we've got all this stuff loaded on cancer. If you've got someone who has cancer, there's your talking points and there's anything you'd want to send them on cancer. And today we're going to jump into diabetes. So Brenda, I'm going to turn it over to you. You get us started on what is diabetes. I think if we're going to be talking to people of why Juice Plus makes sense to them, we have to know a little bit about diabetes, what causes it, what are some of the symptoms. And so Brenda's done a great job kind of pulling this information together.
Yes, well, thank you, Elaine. Actually, my dad was diabetic, and yet.
One second, whoever needs to, someone needs to mute themselves. Thank you.
Okay. I was saying that my dad was diabetic, and even that, there was still a lot I didn't understand. And so I just love this kind of lexicon of basically what diabetes is. And because there's kind of an eye-opening thing I'm going to share too. Diabetes is a chronic disease where the pancreas does not produce enough insulin, or the body can't effectively use the insulin it produces. So, and insulin is a hormone that regulates sugar in the bloodstream. I think most of us understand that there's such a connection between diabetes and sugar. And there's two different issues with the sugar. The first one is hyperglycemia, which is when you have too much sugar in your bloodstream. And then there's hypoglycemia. So it's hypo is more, hypo is less. It's when we don't have enough, okay? And so for optimal health for all of us, we want stable blood sugar. We don't want the crash and the spike that we often get from a lot of inflammatory foods. So there's this set talked about two basic types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. You're going to find out in one of the videos that we're going to show in a minute that we've also been apprised now that there's one that they consider type 3. So it's really interesting. Type 1, first of all, only 10% of people are a type 1 diabetic. It's when they don't have enough insulin in their bloodstream, and they require daily insulin injections of some kind. And they still don't know the cause. There's lots of theories out there, but that's something that even as infants, evidently you can be diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. Most people, 90% of the world, are type 2, where the body's use is, it says, ineffective of diabetes. It can fluctuate wildly. Type 2 diabetic comprises the majority of people, and it's largely a result of excess body weight and physical inactivity, which to me, it is so reassuring, because those are things we can absolutely affect. We can move more, we can be more conscious of our diet, and we can be more proactive in terms of losing weight. So I think that's a very encouraging understanding. So, but here's also the caveat that we're all at risk for type 2 diabetes. I mean, any of us, no matter what our health, what our natural health is, what, even our family history, we still can become a type 2 diabetic if our blood sugars go wacky from poor diet, from lack of movement. And so that's something that we need to control, and be proactive with, throughout our lives, because certainly we're going to feel better and we're going to have more energy. So I thought that was, at least for me, that just really helped crystallize a lot of that. Okay. So Elaine, do you want me to go ahead and talk about some of the talking points too?
Let's watch the video. I meant to actually
like
the video next. So
Yes.
this is, go ahead and, Candace personally.
Doing some kind of cooking.
Candace is one of the most successful people in Juice Plus. She's a medical doctor, lives here in Indianapolis, and we are so privileged to have her, to have access to her. And this particular, she's also in charge of recordings, which again, Ela and I cannot emphasize enough what an incredible tool that is that we have on Facebook. And she takes care of that. This particular video, she's going to give us about an 8-minute understanding of the whole talk about diabetics and just about good health. And so I think it's going to be really powerful.
Be good. Dr. Corson? Glenda, thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. I'm so inspired by you. And it's just a pleasure to be with everyone. So we've got a limited time. I'm going to try to cover as much as possible. And, we work with nutrition. We're a mission-driven business. It's all about helping people to inspire healthy living and healthy giving around the world. So we actually are not disease specific. I just want to say that we are at a deeper level of nutrition, which the body recognizes and needs and was meant to be built by and protected by plant nutrition, extra plant nutrition, which we need in today's world very much. And we are made to use those plants so that everything in the body is working better in the way that it was designed to do. So I just want to preface that by saying we're not talking about using food as we would think of using drugs. There's a time and place for drugs, pharmaceuticals, but we're really talking about nutrition, the foundation of our health, and nutraceuticals, which sometimes would be a concentrated form of nutrition, still nutrition, still food. Safe, the body recognizes it and knows just what to do with it. So just wanted to preface it that way. So we have a lot of problems in the world today and in our country with diabetes. And there are actually, we can call them 3 kinds of diabetes. There's a 3rd kind I'll mention briefly because some people have been using that, a relatively new term. Type 1 diabetes. And by the way, all of these are impacted positively and critically importantly by adding more plants. All of these forms of diabetes, all forms of diabetes. So type 1, which is relatively much rarer than type 2, the bulk of diabetes that we see in the United States is type 2. But type 1 is an autoimmune problem that has happened, usually relatively young in life, and more common than it used to be, as are all autoimmune problems today. And it is an absence of insulin. Insulin is one of the master hormones in the body, tremendously important. We cannot live without it. And if the body cannot make insulin from specialized cells in our pancreas, then we have no insulin, and then that's type 1 diabetes. The origin of that is autoimmune. It was some inflammatory damage in those pancreas islet cells and the inability to produce insulin. And we used to call that juvenile diabetes, and you could still call it that, but the medical term is type 1 diabetes. Does plant nutrition help? Tremendously, and we'll go into that a little bit more. Type 2 diabetes is about 95% of all the diabetes in the United States. And that is a disease of insulin resistance. So we have insulin, and the body in its wisdom is making more and more and more higher amounts of insulin to try to make up for the fact that the insulin it makes is not working properly at the receptor. It's insulin receptor resistance at the cell membrane of every cell. And the good news is there's a tremendous amount of reversibility of that. Insulin resistance happens because of inflammation. If you have inflammation of the cell membrane, you can get then insulin resistance. And bringing down inflammation systemically through the whole body, which adding a lot more plants does, is very beneficial. Reducing systemic inflammation can reduce insulin resistance. And in fact, there's a lot of research on that. And then type 3, we'll just touch on it briefly. Type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. Isn't that amazing? So some people call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes, meaning there's inflammation of the brain, if that makes sense. So what I love about knowing this is that if we can normalize our inflammatory burden, bring that inflammatory burden down, everything gets better. The brain works better, whether we have Alzheimer's or not, the brain works better. So we want less insults to the brain by having less inflammation. And the same with type 2 diabetes, we want less inflammation bothering the insulin receptor. And that's going to give us less resistance to insulin and a healthier body. One thing that's important to know about insulin, insulin is a growth factor. So when insulin is too high, when it's elevated because our body's trying so hard to produce more because it's not able to work properly at the receptor level, as we make more and more insulin, our body's trying to help us, insulin then becomes an unwanted growth factor. And when you have unwanted growth factor, you have things growing that should not be growing. Extra blood vessels, extra cells, potentiates the growth of tumors, contributes tremendously to hardening of the arteries, inflammation and damage to the blood vessels. So we don't want to be running our insulin high. And a lot of Americans, millions of Americans are running their insulin high every day, all day long. They don't know it, but that's because they have insulin resistance. And that part of the whole thing is reversible. The biggest thing people can do to reverse that or prevent that is adding more plants to their daily intake of their food. The more plants, and by plants, let's define that very precisely. We're talking about vegetables, we're talking about fruits, and we're talking about berries, those dark, usually red, purple, blue fruits that are the berries. So that those three categories, fruits, vegetables, and berries, we need more.
Okay, we're gonna stop that for just a second. She kind of goes into a little more detail, but what we wanted y'all to see is just get a taste of that video and what we have to offer people when it comes to people who have diabetes. I loved listening, and as she was talking, I was writing down a couple key things that Dr. Corson said. Number one is she talks about, I loved when she said we aren't disease specific because we go at a deeper level. Did y'all pick that up? That to me is priceless verbiage. And, you know, not only do we want to have this at our fingertips to share with other people, but listening to someone like a Dr. Corson, some of the key phrases and things she says, what that's going to do is give us talking points when we're sharing with people that Juice Plus is a much deeper level, on a cellular level, so that when we focus on any particular disease, most likely, you know, until I heard her talking, I never associated diabetes with inflammation. Well, what do we know? We know that Juice Plus reduces inflammation. So I think it's helping people come back to the on a cellular level, because when she's talking about a deeper level across the board, inflammation impacts all diseases. And what a great reminder that it's at that cellular, or what was she saying? She was saying at the receptor, that insulin receptor, that's where the inflammation's going on. When you can describe that to somebody and then say what our research says is we reduce inflammation, we've made the connection of why people who are diabetic, it would make sense for them to be on Juice Plus. And to me, that would be the fundamental. And we're going to have some talking points of some other reasons. The other thing she was talking about is the growth factor, in that when insulin runs high. Well, if you've got cancer in your body, insulin's running high, it's that growth factor is going to cause any kind of tumors to grow. Mm-hmm. So I think just listening to that kind of stuff, what it does is it just gives us such great information when talking to people. They're never going to feel like you're trying to sell them something. Instead, you're educating them why fruits, vegetables, and berries make so much sense. So, Brenda, do you want to do the talking points, or would you like me to?
Well, that's fine. And also, I really urge you to go ahead and watch that whole video, because there are 3 other people on there telling their story. One of them is a mom telling it about her child. And then there's a gentleman on there who does a phenomenal job of explaining what happened when Juice Plus when he started Juice Plus with his diabetes. It's really great stuff. Yeah, I'm happy to do this one. Okay, we were just trying to come up with the talking points that would be easy for us to remember. First of all, that it's safe for diabetics, but not only is it safe, it's really beneficial because it's one of the few ways to get fruits and vegetables without raising your blood sugar, especially in terms of fruit. That Juice Plus provides the nutrients that are missing in their diet, because for many diabetics, they do limit their food choices. They in the research that I read, most diabetics only have maybe 2, maybe 3 fruits a day, and about that equivalent of fruits and veggies. And we know the person that eats the most fruits and vegetables wins, and that how much they need. And not only the different varieties, but the synergistic reaction when you add broccoli and kale. It's not 1 + 1, it's 1 + 2, it's 1 + 1 is 1,000, like that. And that Juice Plus is safe for diabetics who are overweight and underweight, which I didn't even think about that before that, because it provides real nutrition, and it enables you to make, it addresses the cravings that kind of drive a lot of diabetics to poor food choices. And because we know in terms of calories, our 6 capsules, for 2 capsules of the red, green, and purple, it's a total of 15 calories. So there's no one's health is going to be impacted by that negatively, other than positively. Also, it makes a great dietary supplement because our capsules have no salt, no sugar, no starch. You're getting it, basically, it's just food with all the antioxidant benefits in raw fruits and vegetables, again, without the calories. And just a real quick synopsis of what Juice Plus does. It's bioavailable, which means it gets in our blood. It significantly increases antioxidants, which are going to fight all of the things that are destructive in our body. Significantly reduces free radicals, which is oxidative stress. It protects and helps repair the DNA and enhances our immune system. It improves circulation. It improves your heart, your skin, your gums, your health. I did not understand until I was researching this how much diabetics deal with issues in their mouth, with their gums and their teeth. It reduces symptoms of the common cold, of systemic inflammation, and it absolutely positively impacts athletic recovery and performance.
So what we're trying to do on this series is to give you just quick at your fingertips tools. And then, what we're trying to do is give you talking points for each disease specific, so that you can, when you're talking to someone who is a diabetic, begin making the connection to why Juice Plus would make sense. And so here's a couple of just some quotes on why diabetes, even with the complete, a diabetic can take the complete, and kind of explains why, as well as the capsules. I'm just trying to kind of let you know, here's a quote from Dr. Mita Ray. These may be some great things if you wanted to post those quotes. I think they would be great. Here's Dr. Jan Roberto talking about diabetes. And again, we're kind of coming up on our closing time, but here's our clinical research that maybe we'll take. How much time do we have? I'll let you guys come back and watch this. But I think this is always good when sharing with someone that we have research that validates why Juice Plus makes sense, as well as just some other, these are articles. Sometimes people like to read versus watch a video. So you can couple maybe a video with some documents that are reading about blood sugar. Is Juice Plus safe? Generational impact of diabetes. And so just some great quick things to grab when talking to somebody about diabetes. Okay, so
and actually,
everyone,
that first video that you pointed to was less than 3 minutes. Remember, we talked about that, the clinical study one.
oh, okay, less than 3 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing. And let me see how many people have a list of people you're going to talk to this week already created. Did everyone do that? Anybody not have a list already created? Okay, so here's what we want to do. We've got, you know where to go to get pregnancy information and talking points, cancer information and talking points, now diabetes and talking points. Let's utilize the tool. So next week, we're going to be randomly picking on some people and want to hear who you talked to, what you sent them, and how it went. So let's really use this week to make those connections and move our businesses. I was listening to a podcast last night and I loved it. And it talked about a lot of times what holds us back as well is we think to make progress, we have to make these gigantic leaps. And she talked about, what if we just made 1% improvement this week? 1%. So what's that 1%? Have a list and connect with everyone on that list. Not a huge ask. So can't wait to see you guys, same place, same time, next Monday, and hear the success that you guys had this week because you made a 1% shift in either your daily habits, creating a plan, executing the plan. I can't wait to hear your success next week. So thanks you guys for being on the call today.